Richard Chancellor was an English explorer and navigator, the first to penetrate to the White Sea and establish relations with Russia. Life. Chancellor, a native of Bristol, acquired geographical and maritime proficiency from the explorer Sebastian Cabot and the geographer John D. Cabot had always been interested in making a voyage to Asia through the Arctic, and for this purpose King Edward VI chartered an association of English merchants, the Company of Merchant Adventurers, in 1552 to 1553, with the Duke of Northumberland as principal patron. They hoped not only to discover a northeast passage but also to find a market for English woolen cloth. Sir Hugh Willoughby was given 3 ships for the search, and Chancellor went as second in command. Their orders from the king included behaving peaceably towards any people they met and keeping a regular journal. According to Howarth, contrary winds delayed the expedition seriously, but they eventually arrived off the North Cape as autumn set in, and were separated by a violent storm. Willoughby, with 2 ships, sailed east and discovered Nova Zemlya, but died during the winter with all his men on the Lapland coast some distance east of Murmansk. The bodies and journals were discovered by Russian hunters in the spring. Meanwhile, Chancellor noted and named the North Cape, and with his ship Edward Bonaventure called at the Norwegian port of Vardø, the last town in Scandinavia before the inhospitable Arctic coast of Russia. Here they met Scottish fishermen who warned them of the dangers ahead. However, continuing eastwards they found the entrance to the White Sea, and after obtaining directions from local people dropped anchor at the port of Archangel. When Tsar Ivan the Terrible heard of Chancellor's arrival, he immediately invited the exotic guest to visit Moscow for an audience at the royal court. Chancellor made the journey of over 600 miles to Moscow by horse-drawn sleigh through snow and ice-covered country. He found Moscow large and primitively built, most houses being constructed of wood. However, the palace of the Tsar was very luxurious, as were the dinners he offered Chancellor. The Russian Tsar was pleased to open the sea trading routes with England and other countries, as Russia did not yet have a connection with the Baltic Sea at the time, and the entire area was contested by the neighboring powers of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and the Swedish Empire. In addition, the Hanseatic League had a monopoly on the trade between Russia and Central and Western Europe. Chancellor was no less optimistic, finding a good market for his English wool, and receiving furs and other Russian goods in return. The Tsar gave him letters for England inviting English traders and promising trade privileges. When Chancellor returned to England in the summer of 1554, King Edward was dead, and his successor, Mary, had executed Northumberland for attempting to place Lady Jane Grey on the throne. No stigma attached to Chancellor, and the Muscovy Company, as the association was now called, sent him again to the White Sea in 1555. On this voyage he learned what had happened to Willoughby, recovered his papers, and found out about the discovery of Nova Zemlya. Chancellor spent the summer of 1555 dealing with the Tsar, organizing trade, and trying to learn how China might be reached by the northern route. In 1556 Chancellor departed for England, taking with him the first Russian ambassador to his country, Osip Neper. They left Archangel in autumn. The fleet was Willoughby's ships, the Philip and Mary and the Edward Bonaventure. In October-November the fleet tried to winter in Trondheim. The Bona Esperanza sank. The Bona Confidencia appeared to enter the fjord but was never heard of again, and the Philip and Mary successfully wintered in Trondheim and arrived in London next the 18th of April. The Edward did not attempt to enter, instead reaching the Scottish English coast and being wrecked at Pitslargo on the 7th of November. Chancellor lost his life, although the Russian envoy survived to reach London. Chancellor had found a way to Russia, and though in time it was superseded by a better one, it remained for years the only feasible route for the English. He died at Pitsligo Bay on the 10th of November 1556. In fiction, Chancellor appears as a major character in the novel The Ringed Castle, fifth of the 6 novels in Dorothy Dunnett's historical fiction series, The Limond Chronicles.